Hello and welcome to Columbus Local Podcast. I'm Len D'Amico, and this is episode number 62. This evening, we have the great pleasure of talking with Jimmy King. Jimmy, how are you?
I'm very honored to be here, my friend.
Oh.
Brother Len. Honored.
I'm so glad that you were able to make it this evening. This is going to be a good talk because I do need to express to you my appreciation for including me in some early projects.
Wow.
You pulled me out of some stuff and popped me into some uncomfortable space, and it grew me a bit, and I appreciate that, man.
Well, we have some good history together.
We do.
And I remember the first time I think we spoke. You had sent me a link to Martini Rock.
Oh yeah.
Your guitar album.
Yeah.
That sealed the deal right there.
Did it really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, because if you can do that kind of thing, you're definitely into music, and you can adjust that to any genre. You really can. And you learn and you live and you appreciate your abilities to make contributions. And you made me feel that way, and I appreciate that.
Well, you just fit in exactly what we were doing in Kings.
Plus, I was Italian, man. I look at a fedora.
That's right. I just watched a little Goodfellas today.
It's good to hear.
And speaking of which, that band being Kings of the Drink, we should cheers.
That's Angel's Envy this evening.
And it's a beautiful thing. Thank you.
Thank
you, Len.
On a big rock for Jimmy King.
That's right.
Yeah, man. So for those that don't know, Jimmy King is the mastermind currently behind at least one project that we're aware of.
Yeah, just
the
one project.
Martini Affair, right?
That's right. It's a fun one. Takes a lot of time.
I can only imagine. Jimmy, you're a marketing wizard. Is that something that's innate within you, or is that something you work at?
It is what my background's kind of in. I went to school for broadcasting, advertising, promotion, things like that. Been in bands forever. So we're always promoting bands. But I worked in radio and other things like that. So I do think it's kind of something I enjoy doing.
Yeah, and it's in there, and it's certainly something that it shines, man. Anyone who goes to the Martini Affair gig knows it's the party of the evening.
Well, that's kind of what we're going for. That's kind of what we're going for, and it's worked out pretty well. And obviously, the best part of it is I have wonderful people I work with and have worked with in the past, and this act, Kings, we had a whole lot of fun, and
That's right, man.
Hard drinking, hard rocking Kings. That was some good times right there. But also on the same hand, I learned a lot from that. I always try to say I'm not a very smart person, but I do try to learn from my mistakes. And Kings, I think, did what a lot of bands do. We try to either play those deep tracks, or we try to play the popular song but kind of make it our own. And unfortunately, what I learned through some experience is, people want to hear their popular songs. So,
yeah.
And they want to hear them the way they know them. So kind of took on that and built off of what we learned from Kings and kind of put it into Martini and took a minute, but found the right people and it's been a fun project.
Yeah, I think, we'll spend a little bit of time with Kings of the Drink, I think, Jimmy. I know a lot of your background, and listen, I'll tell you right up front too. If we hit a topic that you don't want to talk about, just say, "Hey, man, we're not going to talk about that." It's no foul.
I'll just plead the fifth.
There's no foul, and there's no intended malice, right? But your story to me is so inspiring, man. And you have some stories.
Lots of stories. Most I probably can't tell, but yeah.
Like I said, if I bring something up,
sure,
because I know a lot, but we don't have to talk about
That's
it here, right? Point is, I think many would have the same level of interest as myself in that you're a Detroit guy
That's right.
at the beginning. And I grew up off. No one
You
believes
did.
this
No,
about
I know.
me,
I
dude.
know you did.
But I literally lived my childhood off of 8 Mile Road
Yeah.
in Detroit City. Okay, in the '60s.
I know you used to have family back there.
That was not a good time to live in Detroit.
No.
It was a volatile time in American history. So I saw things as a kid
Probably shaped you a little
that
bit.
shaped me quite a bit. But for you, man, how about, we don't have to get into like a therapy session or anything, but
I could use a therapy section, but it's been a rough year,
I know
Len.
that I feel you, man. I do. I feel you. We've been talking a little bit about some of these things, but the point I'm trying to make is, you're a musician, you're a marketing professional, you're a very passionate person, and you have a heart that is so big and so giving that when you find the right mix and the right recipe, it's like gold.
Yeah, it really is. And that's, I actually have to say, because it's kind of funny, because I know a few of your previous podcasts I've been mentioned. And in some interesting ways, like with Dennis Kelly,
Oh, sure.
talking about, we were talking about health and stuff. So like, it is nice to make connections with people in a bunch of different ways.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I try to do. I'm really a people person,
You are.
but it's that's one of the things I liked about going to Columbus, because everyone here is friendly. When I first moved to Columbus, I'd walk down the street, people would be like, "Hey, how's it going?"
You get that high.
But
It's
I
like,
know,
what?
because I'm from Detroit. So I'm like, why are you saying hi to me? Like, this don't pan out. It took me a little bit. It took me a minute to realize people in Columbus, Ohio, are just nice people. It's a good place to be. I've lived in a few places, Los Angeles, Detroit, North Carolina. Columbus is really, Cincinnati now, and Columbus is really my favorite place.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a great city.
Great city. Great city, great bars, great restaurants. It's a little flat, but there could be an ocean closer or more water. But other than that, it's a really good city.
Right on. So if you're friended with Jimmy on Facebook and you go through a little bit of his pictures, you'll see this dude in his teens, I think, maybe early 20s, long hair, long black hair, playing bass.
That's right.
Playing a Thunderbird.
Thunderbird, 1991 Thunderbird.
Dude, okay.
Still got it.
Is that when you started music? Was it that time? When
Pretty
did it
much.
start for you?
Pretty much. Well, it started, I think I was 16. I asked my parents for an electric guitar for Christmas. Got this sweet Hondo.
Six
Red
string,
Hondo
wow.
6-string. But I thought it was broken because it sounded like shit. But it was actually just my playing. When I went up to college, I said to my roommates, well, I got this guitar. I'm going to hang it on the wall because it's broken. And they said, oh, let me play this. And
Sound okay?
they did this thing called tuning. I didn't know how to tune a guitar before that. So
Who
I
knew?
started to kind of play a little bit. And then so me and a couple other guys, we were going to start a band. And I was going to play guitar because I had a guitar. Another guy was going to play bass. We went to the store to buy a bass. He fell in love with the BC Rich Warlock guitar. He's like, I'm buying that. And I was like, because we didn't know much about music. I was like, that's got 6 strings. That's not a bass. And he's like, I don't care. I want it. I said, well, I guess I'll buy a bass. So I bought a PV, and that's kind of how I started, was playing bass like that. And I think I was walking across campus. I went to Central Michigan University, and there was a guy. He had a KISS T-shirt. He was walking the other way. I had a KISS T-shirt on. We started talking a little bit. I walked with him to his next class, and he's like, hey, I got this opening for a bass player in my band. And I think I tried out that Saturday or something like that, and that's where it all started.
Yeah,
So-
what kind of music though? What genre of music, Jimmy? What are we talking here?
Well, at the time we were called Trigger Happy. We changed our name to Suicide Circus. we were in like Metal Edge, Rock on the Rise, Rip magazine called us Faster Pussycat meets Skid Row. So that would tell you what realm of music we were in, and we did pretty well. Like I said, we were in all the major mags. We were ready to go. Had a new CD out, ready to hit the road and tour. I think it was about I can't remember what year it was, but Tough. If you remember Tough, they had a song called "I Hate Kissing You Goodbye." And it was number 2 on MTV's Total Request Live, and we were like, oh, we're in all these big mags. Our album's coming out. We're poised. This is going to be perfect. And then at some point in the next few days, Nirvana hit. And everything changed. Everything changed. And, we tried to give it a go for a little bit, but...
And did you go out of Detroit? The Detroit market?
Yeah, we did it. Yeah, in Detroit, we toured up and down kind of the East Coast, Midwest. And then we all eventually pretty much moved out to Los Angeles together. But at that point, we'd already kind of broken up and just kind of meandered out there a little bit. We started playing again a bit, but at that point, I was working. So
yeah. So LA for you, what year are we talking?
Moved out to LA in 96.
96.
Yeah. I was doing a lot of radio and working with a lot of record label people at the time. So they were all like, hey, you move out here, I'll get you a job. And they all came up with job offers, but I didn't realize that because there's thousands of kids across this country who want to move out to LA and work for record labels. There's jobs, they just don't pay you what you need to live in Los Angeles.
Right.
So I didn't take that route. I ended up getting a job with a music video commercial production company. So still kind of in music, but different realm.
Yeah, and getting a paycheck, right?
A good paycheck. In fact, and when the guys who moved out there, my buddies Jeff and Derek and Skyla, they all moved out there eventually. And we were kind of playing around a little bit, and they kept it up, and they actually got signed under, I think it was Y2K Sounds, which is under Universal. But at the time, I was making good money in video production, so I kind of gave it up for a bit. I kind of gave up playing for a solid chunk, but
so what brought me back in?
I'd moved back to Detroit at some point, and actually, it's a funny thing. It was Super Bowl Sunday. I don't remember what year exactly. My kids were, I think, 3 and 1 years old at the time. And I was chopping parsley to make tabbouleh to make our Super Bowl spread, and sliced my fingertip off. Had to go to the ER. You do not want to go to the ER on Super Bowl Sunday, because apparently that's when most people get drunk and do stupid things and end up in the ER. It's still actually on my fingertip. I don't have much feeling. It's hard to play certain songs, but I gave it, that really made me give it up for years. And then I had some old friends from college who said, hey, we're thinking about getting together to jam. And I was like, okay, well, I still have the Thunderbird.
Oh man.
Let's give this a try. And so we started jamming a little bit. And I'm telling you, it was halfway through that first song, and I'm jumping around in the practice room because I forgot how much I loved performing.
Oh yeah.
How much, I don't even care if it's in front of anybody. I don't care if it's in a practice room. Just playing bass and feeling bass, and that was my thing. And it all came back.
It's a channel.
It all came back so quick.
It's cool.
And the following year I moved to Columbus, and that was sort of my my thing was, I'm going to move to Columbus under one pretense, and that is when I get there, I'm starting a band.
Yeah.
And that's when I came up with the idea for Kings of the Drink.
Right on. Yeah. Kings really had a unique look to it. I remember even before I was involved in it, the posters were unique. No one was doing these pinup girl posters with, come see this band at this bar at this time. it's gonna be a blast. And I was like, man, what is this band?
Yeah, well, we were trying to go for the Rat Pack of rock and roll. And originally, the stories, but it's, we thought, well, if we get every song to be about drinking, we'll attract drinkers. And maybe we won't have the biggest crowds, but we'll have the crowds that drink the most. And as you know, big part of a musician's job is hawking drinks.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
you know.
Well, partnering with a venue and making
Yeah.
sure that you're a part of the whole community, right?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the key. I did learn that from your example.
Yeah.
That you are part of the community, and you have to take a responsibility to bring in the party.
Yeah.
You got to have that attitude to be successful.
And I think that's something that I've always tried to do, which is like you talk about the promotion. I know a lot of musicians who feel like it's not my job as the musician to draw people in. It's the bar's job to have patrons, and I keep them there. And that's all fine and good. But I'd rather fill a place. I'd rather bring them in. I want,
be the reason for bringing you
Yes.
in. Yeah, man.
Yes. And I guess it's because I came from an original background.
Right on.
You couldn't just have original music and have it be done well. You'd have to promote it, and you have to bring people in who want to be there. So whether it's original or cover, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, and Kings of the Drink was your first band in Columbus, right?
First cover band too.
Absolutely, yeah. So before that, you were doing all original music.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that original music still
Yeah,
available?
you can find it. I know we're still on
YouTube.
Apple Music.
Oh,
I think we're still on Spotify. Suicide Circus. Our album was called World of Hate. It's from 1995. Probably fit my mindset
right on.
for the time and all that, but it might not translate the best to 2024. The name might be a little insensitive, but
it makes a statement, though, man.
well, we originally called Trigger Happy, and there was a band in Canada called Trigger Happy, and it was right when our CD was about to come out. They kind of sent some legal stuff and this and that. We ended up selling the name to them and going with Suicide Circus. So
Yeah, that's good stuff, though. Well, so we can find that. Suicide Circus is a
Yeah.
real band, and it's a 1995 era.
Yep.
And you from
I think there's some stuff on YouTube as well, too.
From that DNA, though, you bring that attitude of what's still with you today that you had back then.
Well, we were all just young guys, and it was Detroit, and it was still like Detroit at the time, like even when Detroit's sometimes a little behind the times. So even when the rest of the world was in grunge, we were still kind of sleaze rock. And man, I'm telling you, there's some great Detroit bands. Speedball, the Trash Brats were like a glam pop punk band. So we were still kind of having our own thing. And I think there was a guy in radio one time told me, he said, "Hey, Jimmy," he goes, we went on a bike ride together. And he said, "You ride a bike like you do everything in life, with reckless abandonment." And that's what kind of stuck with me. And I think it was just from that time. Like we used, it was the 80s. It was the 90s, but we were drawn from 80s rock. So it was kind of that wild Motley Crue, Van Halen, throwing guitars, doing shots,
Little Jack Daniels involved.
all of it. All of it. Well, Zima back then. It was 92, 93.
Zima.
So,
Yeah, man.
I'd end the night with a Zima. But no, that was, I think it was just that kind of, we were all influenced by Guns N' Roses. We were all influenced by bands like that. So I think I still kind of take some of that. Like I try to be professional and I try to be refined, but man, there's times when I hit that stage and I just channel that energy. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so evolution for you, man, from that into Kings of the Drink and beyond, and into the beginnings of the Martini Affair.
It's, well, it's funny because I was watching some documentaries recently, and I didn't think about how much I was dialed into rap, hip hop. As a white boy from a small town in Michigan, north of Detroit, we had, in my town, our bus was like, I don't know, 4 kids on this dirt road. I lived on a dirt road. And all the rest of the kids were from this place called Camp Oakland. It was a juvie center. So a lot of kids from the inner city, Detroit, would come up to this juvie center and they'd ride our bus. And they'd go to school with us. So I was friends with all those kids.
Oh, my God.
But I didn't realize, they were just kind of kids in my neighborhood. I didn't realize, like, whatever. And we would listen to Run DMC and the Fat Boys and Curtis Blow and all that stuff. And I didn't realize, like, at the time, that was all new. Like, I didn't think, oh, wow, I'm kind of on this new journey with these musicians. I thought
that type of music.
Yeah, I was like, this is the whole thing I just didn't know about, but I didn't realize it was kind of new and fresh at the time. So here I am in Cornfield, Michigan, with my Adidas jackets, like half leather, half suede, like, Run DMC stuff, everything. And I was kind of a little bit of an outcast because of it. And then at some point, I think it was really, I think it was Guns N' Roses when they came out. I was a Kiss fan before hip hop, but I was pretty much in the Run DMC and Beastie Boys and stuff like that in high school until I think Guns N' Roses came out, 87. Like, that brought me back to rock and roll.
Yeah.
So
you being a bass player, right? At heart, that's kind of the heartbeat of that whole operation.
It's weird because for so long I don't even think of myself as a bass player as much as just a performer.
Yeah.
Because, and I think a lot of it has to do with coming from that era, whereas a lot of those bands, the bass was pretty simple. Doon 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 boom 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 doon doon doon. Like,
but it's got the chicks moving on the floor,
well,
dude.
It does,
it's
but
like your index finger is what's making his hips move.
Well, and for a long time I just thought, like, oh, this is the easiest instrument in the world. Like, I'll just, playing in the Martini Fair has actually been incredible because we play a little bit of disco, we play a little bit of classic rock, we play pop, we play Motown, like whatever. Having to learn all of these different styles of music. There's 2 things you realize. Number one, wow, it's so diverse and creative, and you got to figure all this stuff out, and it forces you to do it, and that's great. But you also then see the other side, which is it's all the same. Like, the same chord progressions for disco and reggae and rock, they're all the same, like 3 or 4 chord progressions. It's just how they, especially as a bass player and as a guitarist for you too, like, it's just how you accent it. It's all the same root, but what can you do to make it be right?
You definitely have a style of your own. It's very
reckless abandonment.
It's reckless. There's something about you're a performer. There's no question about it. No question about it, dude.
Well, and that I always,
and I think that's what the Martini Fair does, right? But each player that you have, even your current lineup, right?
Yeah.
Everybody brings their own self and their own background to the table.
Yeah.
And it's top notch.
Well, and every single person in the band is a dedicated entertainer. So, like, I always go back to where I learned that from was the first band I loved was Kiss. As a kid, watching Kiss Meets Phantom of the Park on TV and all that good stuff. I saw an interview with Paul Stanley, and he was like, I remember in our early days, when we played in front of 10 people in some shitty bar, but in my mind, I was Madison Square Gardens.
Right on.
And that's how we try to do it. And it's great to be in a band where everybody does it. In fact, it's so funny because sometimes we'll do a show and maybe it'll start slow. And we are all dead by song 5 because we put so much energy at that start of the show going, there's nobody dancing. What the heck's going on? And we bring it times 10.
Yeah.
Get everybody up dancing. By the time we get them up dancing, then we're almost like ready to die. We need a break because every single person in this band is that way. Like, that person's sitting down. What do I need to do on stage to get that person from sitting down to the dance floor? Because that's our goal.
Right.
So it's a good group to work with.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God, yeah. No question about it. And it's there's a lot there. There's so much, and there's nothing like it out there, Jimmy.
Well,
what do you attribute that to?
I can't say that we're pretty unique because I think we drew off of some different influences. The biggest one being Granny Shot.
I remember that band.
Yeah, John Jenkins, our drummer, he was kind of the guy behind Granny Shot. And I was blessed, actually. Ty Barnes was the one that hooked me up with that. I didn't know John, and they needed a bass player. They were doing some reunion shows. And I got that gig, and I remember, we were in Kings at the time. You and I were both in Kings at the time. I remember going to, it was a show at Fenders, or Kicks probably at the time, and they had to move the pool tables, stack them up out of the way because they were expecting such a big crowd, and the crowd was there. And I remember thinking, wow, this is crazy that like there's people packing the dance floor and we haven't even gone on yet. They're just there in anticipation. And I remembered the first time I saw Granny Shot before I was in the band, their opening song was like Bad Girlfriend by, was that Theory of a Dead Man? Was that the name of that band? And I remember thinking at Kings at the time, that was like one of our closers, like, one of our gold songs at the end of the night. Everybody loves it. It's a hot song. It's great. And Granny Shot played it in the first song. And I was like, wow, these guys are idiots. I was like, these guys are idiots. Why are they wasting such a good song right off the bat? And then I realized very early on,
everything that followed.
Every single song they play is a banger. It's a gold song.
Right on.
And that's when it all kind of clicked. Like, we should try playing music that people want to hear in the style that they want to hear it.
They want to dance, man.
So
they want to dance all night.
Well, unfortunately, being in rock bands, and this, we pick up on pop songs sometimes, but we rock them up. And you get a little success from it, but you kind of make it undanceable by rocking it up. And It's a shame because they're really great versions. And I've heard so many great versions of songs. I admire musicians for doing that. And, I take it back. Being a bartender, I was always told, if you want to own a bar, because I looked into buying a bar, and they said there's about like 5 different things you could be. You want to be the most packed bar, you can do that. You want to have the best drinks, you could do that. You want to have the best food, you could do that. You want to be the neighborhood bar, whatever it is. There's a bunch of different things you could be, but you could probably only be one. So which one is it that you want to be?
Right.
So when I think about playing in a band, and honestly, it was you and I when we'd play places, and I won't name a venue to like be derogatory because God bless all the venues that book live music.
I get it.
But I remember, we played some places where we make like $400.
Yeah.
We were a 5-piece, so we're already talking. We're down to like $60 a person, and
Dude, you used to come to me. You used to give me some pay, and I'd be like, and I didn't give a shit. I didn't care.
Right.
Like, cause I was just having so much fun, but you were almost apologetic.
Well, because it felt bad. I remember so many shows where you and I especially, we'd be there for 3-4 hours ahead of time setting up our own PA because we couldn't afford to hire sound checking, testing it, running a song, sound checking again, all this stuff. And then we'd have to be there till like 3 a.m. Tearing down not just our stuff, but also the PA and everything else. And I remember thinking, man, this takes out so much fun of all of this. I need to get to the point where, and then when I joined Granny Shot, and it was like showing up.
You saw how it happened.
I'd show up. There'd be 500 people in a bar. It'd be packed. They'd be dancing from song 1 to song 40. I'd make a stack of money and go home and go, oh, this is how it should be done.
Right on.
So as Kings was breaking up, that was my thing, was like, if I'm going to keep doing this. And at the time,
that's where you want to be.
Yeah. At the time I had, my kids were all playing sports and busy with things. So it's like, if I'm going to be out until 5 a.m. on a Saturday night and have to wake up at 7 a.m. to coach my kids in baseball, I need more out of that Saturday night.
Right on. And so you figured that out. You figured it out. And the Martini Affair had humble beginnings, but it was always top shelf.
We tried.
Right?
We tried. I tried to, you know, I try to book places that help us book that next place. I try to book shows that help us get that video or those photos, especially early on. It kind of stunk a little bit because, like, you're kind of turning down some things that you probably should be playing, but you're trying to branding. You're trying to position yourself at a certain spot. And, you know, the other thing I took from Granny Shot, because they only had one singer, a male singer, but they would bring female singers up throughout the show. And I thought, I want a full-time female singer, because in today's day and age, the guitar solo, it might be there, it might not. It might be replaced by, if it's a male song, it's a female rapping or a female doing the chorus or whatever, or vice versa. There's so many duets these days. And I also wanted to be where, I remember too, and this is actually, it was the Thursday before King's first show. And our first show was a Thursday at On the Rocks in Dublin, on France.
That was your place.
Yeah.
Man.
And I remember I went out the Thursday before we played, and I wanted to see how that band drew, what a normal Thursday was like. So I would have a measuring stick for our night. I can't remember the name of that band. They were incredible. They sounded so freaking amazing. Bass player was sitting down in a chair. A keyboardist was sitting down in a chair. Their guitarist was standing, but he was also their singer, so he was chained to a mic stand. Their drummer was obviously behind the drums.
Nothing was happening.
Nothing was happening. There was no movement on stage, and everybody was tapping their toes and patting their knees and shaking their heads, but nobody was looking at the stage. And I was like, that's kind of another thing. Like, it stuck with me too. Like, people don't go out to hear perfect music. You can hear that on the album at home. People go out to see a show.
Yeah.
And that's why, and you know this from Kings, we always tried to be a show.
Do it.
So, and when we started Martini, I was like, I don't want anybody, male, female singers, chained to a mic stand. I want them to be able to move. So, and I want to be able to have that diversity of voices. So that was all the thought process behind there. And it kind of grew from my being in Granny Shot. It grew from seeing other bands. Naked Karate Girls are good friends of mine from Cincinnati, and they always bring a show. But I'm telling you what, if you go see a Naked Karate Girls show, nobody's ever like, that's the most 100% perfect music I've ever heard in my life, because nobody ever cares. They're like, those guys are fun.
Yeah.
Those guys are fun. It's like the menus, you know, fun. Like
kicking those balloons, man.
Yeah, like it's memorable things. And even, you know, even if it's not crazy stuff like that, even like Reaganomics, like those guys were amazing with their musical skills. And like they had that show honed for so many years that it was just so perfect. And if you saw them for the first time, you just get blown away.
Oh, yeah.
Blown away.
Oh, my God, yeah.
So it's that to me. Like, people don't walk away saying, oh, they were so perfect musically. They walk away saying, man, that was a great show.
Right on.
I want to see those guys again. And they tell people, you got to see these menus. You got to see this guy. He jumps around. He's like David Lee Roth. He bursts balloons, whatever it is. That's the word of mouth.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And so, dude, I mean, the Martini Affair exploded. How long has the Martini Affair been running now, Jimmy?
We've been around, what is it, March? Just about 11 years now.
Yeah, good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We've had our first show just about 11 years ago. Jess hadn't joined the band yet, so we're a four-piece with just a female singer. But we did one of those Sunday night showcases at Lazy Chameleon where they would you do a free show, but they'd give you a video. And I gotta find that video. It'd be fun to watch nowadays.
Oh yeah.
But no, we were just a 4-piece with Betty LaRue.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, she was
She's still active in Columbus, Ohio.
I know she's still doing the burlesque.
Yep.
You know, I don't know if I know she was singing for a while, but I don't know if she's singing currently. I know her and her husband Mike, they got a second little one on the way. So, you know, they're living life. So that's good. But yeah, we did the showcase. That was 11 years ago. A couple months afterward, Jess came on board, and here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
And you know, Jenna really deserves a call out, right?
Absolutely. We're actually Jenna's just going to be like my sister for life. You know, she's such a great person, and I always said it's kind of funny because this band. So John, our drummer, when he was in Granny Shot, he did what I did, all the booking, all the promotion, all that stuff. And Jenna did all that when she was in Sibling Rivalry before Martini Fair. So having those two, especially, like just from the promotion and the booking, and it was a big asset to have. Yeah. And Jenna's she's super smart. She has all that knowledge. And what I always tell Jenna I owe her is she helped me tone down a little bit. She taught me more of the
really?
She taught me more of the art of the humble brag a little bit. So Jenna's
in regard to performance or in regard to marketing?
like marketing,
Okay,
social media
okay,
and stuff like
okay.
that. You know,
I was going to say your performance has only gone upward.
oh well,
mister.
we don't try to be humble at all on stage. But yeah, no, she was yeah, but she was great with that, and she ran a lot of our social media and stuff, and that was really cool. And the cool thing too is Tiffany, who's singing with us now. Jenna had to move down to Florida, and we got Tiffany Bumgarner now. So, and she's an amazing talent, and she's also somebody who has some social media skills.
God,
and
yeah.
you know, I've admired her crowd selfies for 10 years when she was with Radio Tramp. So I'm blessed to be around people like that can help me out.
For sure. And, you know, Tiffany's really, I mean, just my personal opinion, she stepped in, man.
Yeah.
She did. And you know, Jenna has her chapters of the band. And Tiffany is a different performer. She's her own unique person. And, you know, I've always encouraged, and I've had some conversation with Tiffany, and my thoughts for her have always been to think of it in terms of bringing her background and her mad skills of herself to what the Martini Affair is all about, and not worry so much about. You know, and I think Jenna is very supportive of of the transition.
She was very supportive.
Like I've never seen before, you know, and I just, it's a very supportive environment, and it's a very, you know, honorable place, you know, to roll through.
It's been really cool. And even when, you know, Mark Brennan, who you know with Kings
Drummer.
too, like, you know, when he left Martini Affair, it was very amicable. And I think it's not, unfortunately, that's something that doesn't always happen in bands. It's kind of like being in a marriage with 3 or 4 other people, like, doesn't always be an amicable split. And we are blessed that way that Mark was like that, and Jenna was the same. You know, she actually assisted us in our search for a singer. So it's, you know, it's
all positive. It's juju, man. It's all positive.
Well, it's good when you work with good people.
Right on. Yeah, I totally agree. No question about it. One of the things that Tiffany talks about is a good tooth story.
You know, I was thinking about that. Tiffany did say that I needed to come up with a tooth story. So The only one I could think of was back when I did radio at WMHW 91.5 FM. This is the Furnace. That was the radio station I worked for. We used to do a lot of
What city?
Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
No way.
Yeah, Central Michigan University. The Furnace. Shout out Ron Platzer, my buddy Ron. He's still in record labels in Chicago. Reverend Ron, he got me in the radio. But we used to, it's funny, the band I've seen more than any other band is Pantera.
Oh my God.
And I think it was just because my 2 years in radio were the same like 2 years that they like just exploded onto the scene. So they'd come through and they would tour, and I don't know, they probably toured everywhere, but they came through to Detroit so many times that I'd go see them. And it was at a Pantera show that I got into a mosh pit and had somebody land on my head and I chipped my front tooth.
You.
Yes. So there's my tooth story. And that was really just a start of my tooth story because I've since chipped my teeth so many times on microphones. Because, on stage, reckless abandonment.
Yeah,
so like,
dude, you're all over the place.
yeah.
Man.
So I tried, actually, that mic you have right behind you, the Shure, the retro looking, I tried that because
the Elvis mic.
Yeah, I figured my nose would kind of prevent me from breaking my teeth on the microphone, but it didn't. And I've had the dentist grind down my front teeth more than once to try to make them look a little even.
You got
So
a
it's
cap
not
on the thing?
no cap yet, but it's still there.
It's just a filling.
No, they kind of filled it on the front of it.
Okay,
but,
you got filling in
yeah.
there. I have the same deal.
Yeah.
But
So there, Tiffany.
Matt.
There's my tooth story for you.
mosh pit.
Mosh pit, Pantera, Flint, Michigan, 1993.
Flint, Michigan.
I think.
Oh my God.
I think this girl actually like lifted up her shirt, and I was looking at her, and I didn't notice that some guy was stage diving on top of me. Ka-chunk, chipped my tooth.
Is it what do you think? Was it a foot or fist?
I think it was his whole body landing on top of my head. It wasn't even in my mouth. It was just the impact of a 200-pound human being hitting on the top of my head and slamming my teeth together.
God, dude.
But the girl was pretty, so
Well, what girl's not pretty? Seriously. I mean,
absolutely.
especially in those days.
Especially in those days. Before the grunge days. Oops, sorry.
Grunge changed a lot.
It did change a lot.
Yeah.
It did change a lot. But you know what? I guess that's just music. It's cyclical. Like it just,
Oh,
it's
sure.
like anything. It's like politics. It's like anything. It's just going to change. It's just going to, this side's
it's
up, that
gonna
side's
change.
down, back and forth.
So you the Martini Affair has, to me, I mean, like, there's no end in sight. I mean, how do you feel about it?
Ooh. I mean, there's some times where I think about how old I am and I wonder how much longer I could go. But then there's other times, and honestly, I've always said this. If you're going to do music, you better freaking love the people you do it with.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, it's not like we're famous. It's not like we're making money. It's not like any of this shit. We do it because we love to do it. If we didn't love the people we did it with, it would suck. So, and for me, it's been really weird. Like, and this, we've talked about this, being friends and all that. Like, I've gone through a divorce in the last 5 years. Been through some things with my family, my kids, So like music is life. Music is therapy. And that's why I told you this week, I've had a really shitty start of this year, but I was like, this could be my therapy session to come out tonight. So let's do this. And really every single weekend, it's easy to go to work because of who I do it with.
Right on.
And I have to say this too. This is where being in a band like the Martini Fair is really nice. Because in Kings, we book some shows sometimes. We didn't know. Are we going to go over? We're not going to go over. We've never been there before. We don't know the audience, whatever. Well, Martini Fair, we play, popular music that we've played weddings to people where half the family was from India or China or Amish. And we were like, oh boy, are people going to know this music? And when you play like Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke and this grandma and grandpa from China who's never been to the United States are dancing and singing every word, you're like, oh, well, this sure makes it easier.
Tried and proven.
And you know, when you're playing songs like that, proven songs that people are going to just know and love and dance or sing along to, I tell you what, there's been a lot of weeks in the last 5 years where 7 years, 8 years really, where it was hard to get out of bed some days, you know, dealing with stuff. And sometimes at first you're like, when you're having a hard time getting out of bed, and then you're like, I got to go on stage. How am I going to do that? How am I going to smile in front of people? How am I going to get the confidence to get myself on that stage? But when you know what? As soon as we start playing our music, everybody loves that music.
Oh my God, yeah.
And whether they're having a bad week and now having a better week, or if they're having a great week and celebrating and we're just taking it to another level, that's what could get me out of bed. Knowing that somebody's going to have a better night.
Right on.
And if they're going to have a better night, I'm going to have
You're
a better night.
having a better night,
That's
man.
right.
You're helping the people. You're performing for the people and you're doing good. You're spreading good karma.
Well, and it just feels so good. I mean, I always say this, the best compliment for me, and we get this one a lot, it's my favorite one, is, oh my God, you guys look like you're having so much fun up there.
You know you are.
But to get that compliment, you know, they go see bands where they don't think people are having fun on stage. And I think everybody should have fun on stage. And I get it sometimes, you know, whether it's personal stuff or a bad crowd or just trying to concentrate on a song. But man, there's nothing better than when you connect with that crowd. And when we play a show and the people aren't out on the dance floor right away, those first people who get up, we played a show up last week in Ashland Theater. It's a wonderful venue. I hope they have a lot more bands. It's a beautiful,
cool.
Totally restored it. It's great. Management's great. Horribly supportive, wonderful place in a great town, Ashland. But it's a theater. So I had all these, and they put in these new comfortable theater seats and everything. So people are sitting down. So it took a couple songs to get people up to dance because they're in their comfortable seats. And I tell you, when those first two girls get up to dance, it changes everything. Because that's all you need. You just need that energy. You just need, we feed off the energy in front of us. And so that's why when people always say like, what's your favorite song? Or don't you hate playing this song because everybody plays Don't Stop Believing. You must hate playing that song. No, because if a song gets 30 people, 300 people up to dance, sing along, man, I don't care what, I'll play Mary Had a Little Lamb. And if I can feed off that energy, right. That's what it is. You know what it's like, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When you get that
There's
rush
moments.
to the crowd, like, you know, they all get up there and you're like, oh, we're hitting it right now. That's what it is. So, and that's the beauty of, and I know like there's a lot of rockers out there. Most of us musicians are, and that's my background. That's what I've always done before this band. But I'm telling you, playing the music, you got to play to your audience. And when you play to that music, that you get people up there and they get there and they're dancing and they're singing along, man, it feels good. It feels freaking great.
You know, it's reflective in your performance and in the giant smile on all your faces, man, up there. It's just a good thing. It's good show.
Yeah, well, and again, that also goes back to a bit of having fun with who you're with. So, you know, we've, heck, John and I have known each other since 2010 or so, and Will just about the same time. Will and I actually met. We were doing Hell Run race.
Yeah. Hang on one second.
Yes, sir. So yeah, I actually I met Will. It was funny. We're at a Hell Run, which was you don't see as many of those nowadays, but it's kind of those extreme like 5Ks you do, and they'd have all these different challenges. You got to run through a pond,
hundreds of people.
Yeah,
and
like
mud.
Yeah, mud and like things to climb over or slide down. It was torture, but we did one, and had a mutual friend introduced us before the race. And I'm going through, there's this one thing. It's like, you got to crawl through this mud pile, but it also there was black plastic on top of it, about 2 feet off the ground. So you went in this pitch dark, is about 100 feet long, in mud challenge. I'm kind of claustrophobic. Got about halfway through there, and I'm about ready to push up through. I'm like, it's just black plastic. I'll just pop up through here. Give me daylight.
Get me out of here.
Give me daylight. And I'm freaking out and about ready to do that.
Oh, man.
And I hear somebody say, I got you, bro. And it was Will.
Oh, man.
And he's like, let's do this. We got this. I'm right with you. And we made through the last 50 feet, and we ran the rest of the race together. And I remember there was actually a mini kiss out there, and we were commenting about how midget. I think that's what they were called there. I call them mini kiss, but I think they were midget kiss was their name. If not, I apologize.
It's all good.
Don't cancel me.
It's not intentional. Not intentional. Phones are ringing.
But they were playing no Kiss songs, and we were both upset that, like, how do you have a mini Kiss band and they don't even play Kiss? But no, so we met that day, and then a couple years later, we were looking for a guitarist, and Will answered the call, and man, he's so talented, such a good dude. Really, the only reason at the time we thought maybe he wasn't the guy was he hugged too much, and I wasn't used to that at the time.
You mean that touchy-feely
Yeah,
thing?
Will's a hugger.
Oh, he's big time.
He's a hugger. And man, I tell you, when we were like talking to him about joining Martini Fair, I was like, I love the guy. He's a great guitarist, but man, what's up with all the hugs? But since then, it's so funny. Since that time, like, I've become a hugger. And we have all gone through, like, it's so funny. We were talking to Tiffany about joining Martini Fair, and she's talking about some things that she was going through and this and that. And I was just like, this band is like family. Like, we've gone through so much. I went through a divorce. Jenna went through a divorce. John's going through a divorce. Like, we've gone through a lot together, and we're a family. And that's kind of what it is. We're always there.
We went through a hell run together.
We went through a hell run. We went through hell. We ran through hell together. But that's what it's all about. Like, to have that family, whereas you come together every weekend and you talk about your week, and you're just there for each other, and you're that, that distraction that you really, really need. So when you are wonderful friends with the people you do it with, it's a beautiful thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's the best.
The absolute best.
Yeah.
The absolute best.
You're fortunate, and it takes time, man. Look at how many years you've been involved.
Yeah.
In coming to where you are and where you're going to go, right?
Well, onward and upward. That's what we say. When Jenna came to us and she explained that she needed to move and it was not something we were happy about, but we love Jenna. In fact, we're going to go down and see her in a couple months. But we knew we didn't want to just keep going. Definitely didn't want to take a step back. So we were like, Jenna was so freaking awesome at what she does. We needed to hit a home run.
Yep.
And there wasn't a lot of people who would tick every single box for us to hit a home run. But Tiffany was one. So we were really, really lucky. I talked to Tiffany when I first found out that Jenna was leaving, but she wasn't. She was good with Radio Tramps and everything else. She was doing her thing.
That was a great band.
Absolutely.
They have a great history together, and they've done a lot.
Phenomenal
for the
musicians.
scene. Yeah.
Absolutely. Really, really great band. So, we're like, okay, cool. But then things kind of changed in their camp, and we were still looking because, again, we wanted to hit that home run. So being able to do that, it's really injected a little energy into us too. Like, it's a new chapter, which is, always a worrisome thing. It's always presents its own issues, but man, it's been pretty smooth. And Tiffany, we found out really early on, she's like us. She's an entertainer. She's a performer.
Oh, there's no question.
She moves. She tries to get that crowd engaged, and
she's a spiritual being.
Yeah. So she fits right
deep.
in.
Yeah,
fits right in.
And there's a lot going on there with her performance, and it really, Jamie, I'll be honest with you, man. Like, her first show at Lazy Chameleon this past, was it February?
Yeah.
Okay.
24th.
Freaking unbelievable
that was a
performance,
fun one,
man.
huh?
Oh my God. You know, congratulations too. I mean,
Thank you. It's a big pickup for us.
To everyone, right? And then you know you've had some stellar performances after that, and you know you got a full book this year. How many shows you got booked this year?
They're still coming in, but we're trying to keep to about 3 a month right now, not overdo it. So about 36. We were doing about 75 a few years ago, but I always kind of aim for lesser, and it always kind of creeps up. So I think that's one of the things that works really well is we don't play. We try to be very conscious about not playing too many times in the same area. So that because we're basically a Columbus band, we have played out in Ohio and Kentucky and West Virginia and everywhere else, but for the most part, we're Central Ohio located. So, but I try to be real conscious to not be I've seen bands in the past play 8 times in Columbus in a month and then wonder why their crowds aren't great. Well, that's because your crowds could split up over 8 shows, so we really try to maximize everything. And if we can do that with lesser shows, great. But then it also keeps some more open dates. So sometimes we kind of fall into some pretty fun things along the way. Whereas some of the bands who have booked everything out aren't available. So It's all good. I'm not complaining. It's kind of one of those things where it gets down to the point of going, once we have our, 36 shows or whatever that we want to do, anything else is gravy. So we can kind of be choosy about it. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about, I don't want to be from a bragging perspective, but it's important to acknowledge some of the awards and some of the acknowledgments. I think that the Martini Affair has realized, right? Like not everybody gets the accolades that the Martini Affair has earned.
Well, thank you. It's been one of those things where, and honestly, the thing that we're most proud about is most of the awards we've actually won have been through weddings and stuff. And some bands, understandably so, don't like to do weddings. It's a long day. There's a lot of extracurricular that you, as a musician, don't necessarily you didn't sign up for. A lot of us musicians, it's kind of funny. I was thinking about this the other day because we were playing a show up in Ashland, and I was putting on my tie backstage, and when I became a musician in the first place and not have to wear a tie for my day job, but here I am wearing a tie for my night job. So, but I enjoy it now, so it's fine. But it's one of those things. It's one of those things where you just like what you put in is what you get out. So when you dress up, you kind of get it back, and whatever it takes for us, whatever it takes. And being that way for weddings, that the amount of effort we put into them and amount of care we put them, because it's really cool. It's really cool when we have couples come back 2, 3, 4 years down the road. Hey, it's our anniversary and we came out to see you guys because you played our wedding.
Right on.
And, or even better yet, sometimes is like the parents of the bride or groom come out and they're like, oh, you guys played our son's wedding. And like, man, we just love you guys. And like, it's a cool feeling, and know like that's a huge responsibility to have somebody's wedding. And I used to work in weddings in photography and videography as well too. So I understand that. Like you don't get a second chance, right? You got to get it all right. So it's a high pressure, stressful thing. And man, I'm telling you, our team, we just got it down. Like Jess Hanks is kind of our MC extraordinaire, and he just works with the couple before, and we get an itinerary together, and we were able to work with the other vendors, and just our job is make the bride and groom stress-free and just have a great time. And when you have that happen, man, those are the most rewarding shows. So those awards, of all of them, are the ones that mean the most. But all of it really, it's just one of those things when people, And again, it goes back to song selection a lot too. It's nice because I've been in bands before where you might only invite certain people out because you're like, well, this person isn't going to like the music we play, or this person isn't going to be down with going to this dive bar or whatever else. And in this band, it's really nice because we play a popular, safe realm. It's still a party. I mean, it's an out of control party, but we still play safe enough music and all that. Like, I could have invited my grandparents to the show and feel good about it. Like, you can bring, we do a lot of community shows during the summer and stuff with little kids. And it's great because little kids, Kids Bop's albums are just the same albums their parents listen to. So it works really well.
It does. And, the thing, too, to your earlier point, you're working with some great, great, great bandmates. Man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yourself on bass,
I try to surround myself with greatness so nobody notices my deficiencies, Len. You should know this by now.
You're a rifle, though. You're a rifle, man. You're a force to be reckoned. It's all of that is permeating from you.
I will say this:
your guitarist. I love Will.
Will's
he's a
brother.
He's just the sweetest human being.
Yeah.
And you met him at a Hell Run.
Hell Run, yeah. Great guy. Great guy. I love Will. He's my brother.
Yeah.
They're all my brothers. And it's I always like there's a point of our show sometimes where maybe we have one of those somebody from some other bands coming out. Maybe they've never seen us, and they've kind of formed a little judgment in their head. And they're sitting in the back of the room with their arms crossed, whatever. And then we get to a song where Will can solo, which isn't every song when you play in a pop dance band.
Right on.
But man, when we get
you treat him, though. You give him his little spotlight.
Well, it's beautiful.
More than once.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful, too, because there's a lot of songs. This is the greatness of what we do. Like, there's a lot of songs, pop songs. There's really no bass. It's a bass synth. There's really no guitar. There's a straight up synth. So, like, sometimes what Will and I do is create our own parts. Right. Sometimes we'll mirror what's being done there, but other times we're hey, we'll leave the synth to the synth and we will do our own thing. And when we do that, those are my favorite songs. We do Fireball by Pitbull. And I don't think hardly anybody in the band does what the song does, but you wouldn't know that by hearing it because what we do just works. It complements it and it sounds like the real song, but it's all a little different. And we all have fun, and it just makes it fun. Yeah. And Will is just wonderful because so many pop songs or rap songs or this other stuff that we do, there's no guitar solo. There's no guitar parts in half of them. And he's able to come up with really cool things. Really cool things. And it was kind of fun, too, because he was trading shows. So Jenna married Kyle from LDNL. And she filled in with LDNL a few times, as well as Will filled in with LDNL a few times, and Kyle filled in with us a few times. And I think, Kyle's this amazing player. Kyle Roth is an amazing player. And what I didn't realize when I first met him, and I first watched him for like 3 years, and I just thought what a wonderful guitarist he was that he actually tried out to be the bass player for LDNL.
Oh, wow.
But he's a guitarist. So I watch him, and then I watch when Will and them were trading off, and, Kyle picked up things from Will, and Will picked up things from Kyle, and, like, it was super cool to hear, like, man, like, as Kyle played Yeah by Usher one way for 10 years, and Will played it a different way from 10 years, and they were both in their own realm, but then they kind of came together and worked on things, and it was just like, geniuses. And that's what I like. I like to surround myself with creative geniuses. And then it might just be like Will, his knowledge of guitar is just so amazing. And John is just an amazing drummer. But you know what? John also freaking does stuff that, like, my favorite drummers, like growing up, were people like Tommy Lee and stuff who made a name for themselves. Right.
He's a showman.
And you have great drummers around Columbus, I would say Michael Wharton is one of my favorites because you don't go see whatever. He's been in a bunch of bands. He's in the Brad Moore's Lost Boys right now.
Yep.
But you don't go see them and not notice the drummer.
Right.
Because Michael Wharton is a force, and he's back there spinning them sticks, and he's got the lights, and he's got his gasoline can he's drinking from. Like, it's a show.
Yeah, man.
And you know what? Very few bands get a show from the drummer. You know,
Right.
they're the show from the singers, maybe the lead guitarist, maybe everyone up front, but not necessarily the drummer. And John is one of those guys who brings it. He gets up on top of his drum set several times in the night. He gets out from behind his drum
He
set.
comes out to the front of the stage, man, and he's out there partying.
Yeah. So it's, you know, that's a great thing. And it really, it's wonderful because I know, like, if I need to chill out for a song, I can, because I got 4 other people on stage who are commanding, you know, people to look at them. They're commanding attention. So I can take a song if I need to, slip to the back and have a drink and just kind of chill for a second. And everybody else can be in the same way. So, but when we all bring it, man, that energy, and that's when we get in the room. And that's when we play places like Fido or Boom or Cinco de Mayo shows or New Year's Eve shows or wherever these big shows are. And you have 5 people on stage bringing energy and 500 out there bringing energy. That's the thing that's
where
so
it's at,
fun.
dude.
And that's where I always say, like,
But that's where you are, though, dude. That you're there every show.
well, pretty blessed to do that. Pretty blessed to do
It's
that.
not an accident, dude. Yeah, I mean, I know firsthand how hard. Well, maybe not firsthand. I've seen from a distance how hard you work. Your work ethic, your attention to detail, your desire and passion to deliver the best possible product. It has brought you to where the Martini Affair is today.
Well, and I think that goes back to my influences like Kiss, like
Right on.
Poison, Motley. You know, I was liking that Nikki Sixx is one of my influences. Nikki Sixx isn't known for his bass lines or his bass tone. He's just known for being freaking Nikki Sixx, and that's all it is. Like, and at the end of the day, and I know I'm not trying to take away anything from any amazing musician because, man,
There's some
I'm in
amazing-
awe of them all the time.
There's
And in this town alone,
oh my God, yeah.
it's incredible. So, and I've lived in Los Angeles, so out there, the level is incredible. Columbus is great freaking musicians. So does Cincinnati. Like, I've never really spent much time in Nashville. I can't even imagine the level of Nashville, of all these wonderful musicians go there. I appreciate great music, but you also, at the end of the day, you're putting on a show. So at the end of the day, and again, it goes back to, like I said, about if you're going to own a bar, which one do you want to be? You want to be the great drink bar or the great food bar? Because you probably can't be both. What do you want to be as a band? Do you want to be the band that all the musicians are like, these guys are freaking great? Go for it.
Yeah.
You want to be the band that says, we can play kids' parties? Go for it. You want to be the band that says, we can play pop shows? You know, pick what you want to do and go for it. Because that's what it's about. It's finding your niche that makes you happy. And also, don't worry about, I find this too much. Don't worry about what other people are doing. If what you're doing makes you happy, just freaking do it.
Right on.
Like, I'm telling you, there's so many bands that are so amazing at what they do, and they got their niche audience or what makes them a little different, and it's wonderful and it's beautiful and I love it. And it's funny too because we get asked all the time, oh, like, just speaking about LDNL, oh, you guys must hate LDNL because, like, your competition.
You're talking about Lieutenant Dan's New
Lieutenant
Legs.
Dan's New Legs, LDNL, like, or other bands like Naked Karate Girls, you know,
yeah.
like Reaganomics when they were still around. I was like, no, those guys are the best. Because number one, all those guys and all those bands, nothing but beautifully wonderful human beings from what I've experienced. But most of all, I think when you don't worry about being competitive with everybody else and you just think about the whole scene, what you want is, like, I always look at LDNL. Those guys are like pioneers. The amount of money that they command, and guess what? They play like 2 75-minute sets. When the rest of us are playing 3 hours or 2 90s, they do 275. So I'm like, that's Hey, that's some pioneer work. You do that. It's either going to let us all do 2 75-minute sets, or we're going to at least look better for doing our 290 sets. And it might help us earn money close to what you're earning. That's what I want. I want people to elevate everything.
Yeah.
Elevate the crowds, elevate the bars, make everybody make money, and then we're all happy.
Yeah, man.
We can all be good with that. So like bands like LD Now, the Menus, my God, the Menus, that's a band that was around for how long?
30,
The
25?
Reaganomics, the Reaganomics were an 80s band that started in the frickin' 90s, and they just gave it up last year. So the Websters were another band, I know around here for a long time. Yeah. So those bands kind of paved the way. And I wish just all bands, hey, be what you want to be, but support each other in the sense of the more, the better your brother's doing, that opens up for you to do well too.
Yeah, man.
And
that's a great message.
Because we all know, and I'm not going to get into the politics of bars versus bands, because we always try to do is this. We always, and venues would speak to this. We always try to be that sweet spot. Could we squeeze them for a few more dollars? Sure. Could we play for less because that's what they want to? Sure. But we want to find that sweet spot. What's that spot where we feel really good about the money we're making and the bar feels really good about the money they're making? Now we got something good. Now we got a good relationship. Because, in business, that's what you want.
Right.
That's what you want with
win-win situation.
Yes. All your customers, your clients. You don't want to be one-sided.
Nope.
And we've all done that.
Yeah. No, you're right.
We've all had a show where we were like, oh, wow, we're getting paid good money for this show. And then you show up and it's like, there's nobody there. And you almost feel like a freaking thief because you didn't deliver. So the best thing is when you can be like, man, I feel good about what we brought. I feel good about what we got paid. And they feel good about what we brought, and they feel good about what they paid. And that's how you have long relationships with bars and stuff like that. And if all bands could get to that point where we could all just be like, let's all elevate our rates because we're going to do what it takes to bring in more people so the bars make the money.
Right.
That's what it's all about.
That's a great goal. And I think there's quite a bit of bands that are rising to that occasion you described.
And I want to say this too, Columbus is a pretty good scene. I know that there's some places that pay less than others, but I moved down to Cincinnati about 2016, and there's a reason we don't play Cincinnati. There are very, very few venues in Cincinnati that pay what Columbus venues pay. That's why you see Cincinnati bands come to Columbus. That's why you see Cleveland bands come to Columbus. That's why you see even bands out of Pittsburgh and everywhere else, like some of these Bon Journey, tribute bands. They come to Columbus because guess what? Columbus has people who come out and support live music, and they pay.
The goods.
They pay decently.
They're bringing the goods to make that happen.
Yeah. So if they're paying decent, let's keep giving them good shows. Let's keep them making money, so we can keep going. So everything keeps working. It keeps flowing. That's what we need.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
Yeah. That's a community.
It is. And once everybody works well with that, I kind of liken to when a bar gets really good is when Friday, Saturday night, they're going to have a good band. You might not know who the band is. You look up, never heard of that band. But this bar is known for having nothing but good bands. You still go.
Right.
If you're not sure of that and you're like, this bar is hit or miss. Some nights they have a good band. Some nights they don't. You look, never heard of them. Probably not going. So we can all elevate. The scene can still be elevated. Columbus is a great place. I'm from Detroit. We talked about it earlier. Yeah. I have tried to book a show back in Detroit so many times because I have so many friends and family. I'm like, if I could just book a show up there once a year, I could sell out a place. Just, whatever. And even in that context, it's like 1/3 what they pay here in Columbus. So appreciate what we have here in Columbus, but man, we can all it can all be better for everybody.
Keep in that direction and embrace what's working.
It's one of those things when you write an article or something, you got to find out who's your target audience, what's your purpose, who your target audience is. And I feel like it's the same thing with music. You need to know, are we looking to play Van Halen songs in front of Van Halen fans? Then great, go for it. Are you looking to play B-sides, deep cuts off, in front of a handful of people who really appreciate that, great, go for it. If you want to fill a place, if you want to make some money, you want the bar to make some money, find out who goes to that bar. Find out.
Talk to them.
Yeah. Find out, oh, is it a rockabilly crowd? Then you should put rockabilly in your set. Is it a pop crowd? Put pop in your set. Is it a metal crowd? Put metal. Whatever it is, cater to your crowd.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're a marketing professional, Jim. And that's good insight. It's good. It's good. It's nice of you to share that.
Well,
to share those thoughts.
And
it's kind of the essence of what the Martini Affair is providing, right?
Well, I look at it like this, and this is what I said, again, about good bands don't rival with other good bands because we want it all to be good. So yes, man, there's no knowledge to hide. I always tell this to people who aren't even in bands, and they're like, oh wow, this band seems to be doing, because people, if they don't know people in bands, they're like, oh, you're in a band, yeah, great, whatever. And then sometimes they show up and they're like, oh, I didn't realize you were actually in a real band. Because there's so many just amateur type garage bands out there. Well, if you sit there and you really look at it what do people want to hear? Because when people are like, oh, wow, your band's decent. We've seen all of our friends' bands. We hated them. You guys are actually we liked you guys. And I was like, all we try to do is play music people want to hear. And once we made that switch,
click,
shooting fish in a barrel is what I'm talking about. When you play music people want to hear, it's pretty easy. Yeah. It sounds simple. It sounds stupid. And I get it because I was one of those musicians for so many years who fought all of that. Oh, I'm not playing Don't Stop Believin'. I'm not playing Any Way You Want It. I'm not playing Faithfully. I'm going to play this deep Journey track. Or I'm going to play Don't Stop Believin', but I'm going to play it like a punk song.
Because that's what you like.
Because that's what you like. Or that's what's fun to play.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it different than everybody else.
Yeah.
And other musicians are easy to say, man, that's really cool you did that. And even bartenders, I remember were our biggest friends. Because in Kings, even though I didn't have it right there, we still had a very different set list. And how many bartenders would come up to us and be like,
love that show.
I love you guys because you don't play the same 40 songs that so many other bands play. Well, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the bartenders think. It doesn't matter what other musicians think. If you want to draw well, if you want to get paid well, it matters. Who can you draw into that bar? What do they think? Right. What do they want to hear?
Right.
There's an old saying, being in the Bartenders Guild and all that, I paid a lot of attention to that too. And there's an old saying, a bar full of women never goes out of business. Because a bar full of men might. A bar full of men, it's, hey, give me your $1 beer, give me your, bucket of this, bucket of that. There's a reason why bars have ladies' nights.
Right.
Because if the ladies show up, the guys
are
show
showing up.
And the guys are going to what? Buy them drinks. And guess what? Bonus, the ladies aren't just drinking $1 beers. They're drinking espresso martinis or anything else. So if you know that and you cater that audience, bonus.
Right. Bonus for the community.
And again, I'm not trying to say that's the way to do it. I'm just trying to say, figure out what you want to do and plan it out and go for it.
Right on. It's good advice. And dude, that's so much to share. I mean, it's kind of you to do that.
Well, I mean, it's easier after all that Angel's Envy. What's this other bottle we got here, Len?
This is a Doug Blessing production.
I think
from Rock House.
Yeah.
It's a small batch Castle and Key bourbon.
Well, I think we should sample some of that.
Yeah, we should. There's some left here.
And Doug's a good guy. Doug's a really good guy. So we talk about kindness and all that. I think it's just what would really just help is, everyone in the scene just kind of being supportive of each other.
I think you'd find definitely post-COVID, and maybe even before then, but there's definitely a movement.
Yeah.
That is of a supportive nature across the board.
There is. And it's been kind of fun to see. I'm not a part of it, obviously, but I see that and I'm going to get the name wrong because I don't know the official name, but the Central Ohio Women Who Rock Alliance group.
Great example.
That's been fun to see. Like they're doing little takeovers of bars and doing karaoke nights or band nights or whatever else. And yeah, that's just a way for everyone to come together and support the community. So
it's a great example of what's going on there. Definitely.
All right. Got to sample this. Castle and Key.
Castle and Key, small batch.
Cheers, Doug.
Ooh, nice. That
No
was
crack.
a tink. And a shout out to the Gypsy Kings.
That's right.
For these fabulous glasses that Christy Kemper sold me a couple years ago.
Very nice.
During COVID, I believe at a Fender's gig. A cherished Columbus music scene item.
Absolutely.
So on a big rock, of course.
Yes. And this Castle and Key, it's good stuff.
I agree. I totally agree.
I mean, I do see your bottle's about 90% gone, Len. So
Doug did some damage with us. Not too long ago, Jimmy King.
I just actually I've talked to Doug before, but I just met him in person recently at one of our shows at Turtle Creek, and man, and great podcast with him, by the way. And he's somebody else who spit a lot of knowledge right there.
He did.
He talked a lot, and I love it because he talked about elevating the stage show.
Yep.
Wow. We're here. All right, what happens if we bring it here? And it just keeps building and getting bigger. And he even talks about I never thought I'd be a guy wearing a wig on my weekends. But that wig elevates the performance. And it's one of those things where you just have to do. And that's where, again, I've never considered myself a musician as much as an entertainer, because you'll do whatever it takes to entertain that crowd.
Oh, yeah.
And bands like that, there's so many good bands out there.
There are.
That do so many good things. You had two of my favorite people, Josh and Angie from Pretty Filth here.
Oh my God, what a delight.
I mean, they're just awesome. I just love them. They make me smile. Their positive nature on social media. Could we all have that?
Right on.
No drama, just positive freaking posts. I love it. And they're just good people, and they're very supportive of all the other bands. And they're, again, just entertainers. You go to one of their shows, and not only do they play great 80s rock, but they got all the cutouts, they got all the props, all the shake weights. That's what we love. People put in that extra effort. And Doug Blessing and Rock House is definitely along those same lines as Karate Girls and Menus and everything else. And man, it's just a wonderful thing. You see it happen. You see people put in the effort. You see people care about it, and they do well.
They do, but there's the other side of the coin too, where you have a raw performance of a genre, right? So, as an example, you have, and I'll just call them out because they're a personal favorite local band that Beth and I go see as frequently as we can. Clubber Lang.
Oh yeah.
Okay, those guys are just straight up rock and roll.
Yeah.
Just straight up.
Yeah.
There's not a performance beyond just the essence of themselves. Okay, which is a kind of a little different spin of what you're talking about, because it's like going to see The Cult in the basement down the street, where they're just, the cool factor just speaks for itself, and the raw talent of everybody in that band, just boom.
And that's here's the thing. I don't know anybody in that band personally. I know.
I didn't until about a year ago.
but I know, I can see from all the other musicians that I know how much respect they have in this community. It's a bunch of guys who've done it for a long time and have respect. And I'll tell you what I see and what I think is wonderful, and I know Seth is behind this a lot too, is he is on social media one of the biggest supporters of all the other bands.
Yep.
And
He's
again,
a great example of what you're talking about with the support factor.
And going back to the humble brag too, they don't sit there and say oh, we're this, we're that. They want to say, hey, we're coming here and join us and do this other good stuff. And we appreciate everybody else. And that's a great example of a band that's super talented and has a lot of connections and is kind
Yes.
and doing the right thing.
And
we can do it.
They're going to help. They're out there helping everybody.
Yes, exactly.
They're going out to see shows.
Exactly.
They're talking about what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And they're just having a good time.
And that's the thing. Like people talk about, and I get it. Like, look, I have not had enough whiskey to. I have not had enough whiskey to fully talk about this. However,
you're close.
However,
we'll
real close.
Let's go.
However, there's been some bands. I'll say this: you talk about what they say. Flattery is mimicry is the highest form of flattery, or some along those lines. We have had a few bands literally take our marketing materials word for word. And use it for their own. In fact, I've had venues ask me about this one specific band. They were like, hey, are you guys two bands now? Because we just received these emails and they listed you guys like 8 times in their email. So, and hey, like I said, flattery, wait, what'd I say? What's the saying? Flattery is mimicry is a form of flattery. So I'm not going to be like all upset about it, but it's funny because some people try so hard and they still can't get it right. This band's not around anymore. They still can't get it right. So I encourage bands to share what works and adopt what works, because we would all want, hey, would we all want another 5 great music venues in this town? Absolutely we would. Would we want every bar to have 100 more people in it every freaking night that there's a live band? Absolutely we would. So let's work towards that. Like it's really about just putting out a good product. That's all it is.
Right.
And there's so many, and it is about promotion too, because there are some bands that are amazing products that could use more promotion. But if we all work together and promote each other and support each other and support venues that really support live music, and hopefully we get more venues that do that, there's more than enough supporters out there for all of us.
Right on.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Columbus is only getting bigger.
Yeah. Growing exponentially. It's one of those cities in America that's booming, basically.
So, it in a lot of the venues too that are supporting local music and beyond, right? Because there's some go beyond.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's going to be more population and looking for stuff to do in the weekends, man.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I've talked with certain bar owners about too. Like, and this comes from my bartender background and my marketing, whatever else. But there are certain bars I remember talking to going, you have 1,500 houses across the street that are soccer moms. They don't want to listen to metal. So you should have more pop. And it doesn't mean I'm not trying to just promote pop. You might have a community that is all about metal. Then you should play more metal. Cater to your audience. And again, that goes back to what we talked about. Play music people want to hear. If that's your crowd in that bar, do it.
Yep.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Jimmy King. Jimmy King, dude, I tell you what, we've gone probably way past our bedtime here.
We have.
And that's okay.
But we could have gone for hours more too, I think.
We can.
We'll do it off mic.
It's an open invitation for you to come back, and do another podcast episode.
Well, I'll tell you what. Before I head over to tonight, I was hanging out with John Jenkins, and we wanted to express to you that we would like to be your last podcast. Or if you have somebody else planned for your last podcast, one of your last.
I have no plan to end.
We will come in here and it'll be no holds barred. So you can run a hot mic the whole time. It's going to be controversial. I'll have to hide it from my kids, but
let's do it.
I think we should do it.
Let's do it.
I think we should do it.
We'll do it. I'm not going to put a number on it, but that's a deal.
I mean, down the road.
That's a deal.
Down the road.
Absolutely.
All right. Hey, Len, I appreciate this, brother.
Hey, Jimmy King. It's always a
pleasure.
pleasure.
We've been friends for a long time.
We have.
We have.
And I hope it continues, and I hope that the success that you share, not only with yourself and your bandmates, but the Columbus, Ohio music community, and the support that you provide. I mean, even the insights and the ideas and the inspirations that you've shared on this podcast episode, I think is valuable.
I hope so, but also I learn a lot from everybody here as well too.
Right on.
Like it's been wonderful. It's kind of interesting because coming in like from Detroit, I'm not used to stuff here. We didn't have El Rosa Villa. We had Harpo's. You know, we didn't have Chuck Oni. We had Chuck Burns.
Right.
So like, but it's been fun learning people here and learning everybody and everything about it.
Yep.
And I've learned a lot.
Yeah, and it's been a blast to see it come to fruition, to where you are and where you're going.
So far, so good.
Oh, love to hear you say it, man. Love to hear you say it.
We'll see.
Okay, well, let's wrap that right there with a big thank you. And Jimmy King, episode 62 of Columbus Local Podcast. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Len.
All right. Thank you.
Love you, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Love you too. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening.